Whoops, that was a little early. And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to today's episode of Law, News, and Laughter. Little bit of a mixed bag today, shall we say. We've got someone spotting the Bluey car in real life. We've got a surgeon that's been determined to have harassed his chauffeur because he wouldn't stop talking about his own tiny peen. And a man is suing a hospital for $1 billion after being encouraged to watch his wife's C-section. Because, that's a thing. But anyway, let's get stuck into it, shall we, people? Welcome to Law, News, and Laughter. Wouldn't be a Monday without the boomerang, but at least we got it out of the way early. Alrighty, people. So, what I want to do this morning is throw my 2 cents onto the barbecue because it seems like every man and his dog has a opinion on the whole Russell Brand situation. And I figure that if so many people can throw an opinion out there without even really remotely reviewing the situation, looking at the evidence, or, having a coherent thought, I figured, hey, I can throw my 2 cents in too, can't I? What I'm seeing from a lot of people, what I've seen on Twitter, what I'm seeing on YouTube, on other social media platforms, because I'll get to the mainstream media in a second, because I did see what they were covering last night, and I wasn't impressed. But what I'm seeing on the social media platforms is that a whole bunch of people are jumping on the, hey, let's crucify him without looking at the evidence bandwagon, as per usual. Now, I'm not saying that he hasn't done anything wrong. I'm sure as shit not saying that, because I haven't seen anything. And that's why I'm specifically sitting here saying, hey, if these people are saying that they want to jump all over him and crucify him without any sort of a trial, if that's going to be the new standard, can we start doing that to other certain individuals? Like Hunter or Joe. Or, let's see, who else has done things that may or may not be legitimate that we haven't actually seen anybody arrested for? Epstein comes to mind. There's a few others that I can think of. Guilty before any evidence, the court of social media sucks. Yes, it does. And that's, don't care about the allegations, show me the proof of the grape kit or nothing happened. That's exactly the way that it should be, Jason. Because yes, we have a duty to investigate allegations, but here's the thing. When we know that there are so many individuals out there that would happily use it as a way of tearing someone apart to make sure that their own crimes are hidden, because it's very interesting that it's Russell Brand of all people. I mean, it's not like he's spoken out against certain things in the past anyway. Is that Dark Brandon? Maybe. But, I mean, look, the annoying thing that I'm seeing is that individuals that I had previously had some association with or some level, we'll call it a modicum of respect for having interacted with them in the past, seeing them jump on this bandwagon about Russell Brand has really made me have to rethink my thoughts on these people and how much of a level of respect I have for them. Because courtesy is given, respect is earned. And I really need to put that on one of my mugs. But it's like, how can anybody actually jump to the conclusion? And it's why I don't understand how there are so many Amber Heard stands as well that just focused on, she made allegations against him. She put some makeup on to make it look like she'd been belted around. We must believe her under all circumstances. And I just can't, Like, show me the evidence. Show me... Because, of course, there are situations where there is no evidence, where something terrible has happened, and those are the exceptions to the rule. Where, yes, something terrible may have happened, but they may never actually be able to prove it. And my heart bleeds for those people. It really does. Like, I'm not being facetious. It generally breaks in those situations because there are always individuals that wind up in both sides of the coin. We particularly know that there are individuals that wind up in jail where there is next to no evidence. We know that there is people that get away with murder because there is next to no evidence. Too many sheep without the ability to think for themselves. Channel 4 is not known for its impartiality. I should hope not. Brand slept with thousands of women. Now apparently there's 4 unhappy. It's a stitch up for sure. Well, not only that, from what I can see, it looks like these 4 women had been pressured by various media organizations. Now, I don't know if that's legitimate or not either, but this is all... I'm consuming this information the same level as you guys. I'm just looking through what's happening on social media. I'm looking through what's happening in the news. And can I just say, Channel 10, you pissed me the fuck off last night with how you covered the brand stuff. It was incredibly unprofessional. Finally got rain after 65 days. Oh, good. They're just going after him because he got based. Well, there is that. So... But anyway, look, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in because it does feel like people are ready to jump on the bandwagon and crucify him without any real evidence. I mean, there's the text messages. People are claiming that they have been doctored or they've been altered, whatever. I don't know. If those things make it into evidence in court, as in if they have not been in any way altered and it's not able to be disproven or anything like that, I mean, particular text messages don't... Like, yeah, I honestly don't know. If it makes it to court, then we'll look at it. But as it stands, crucifying him in the media, we've got to stop this. We have to. Because they wouldn't like it if we did it to them. All of a sudden, we're throwing their people under the bus without any sort of trial by jury. Hell, I can make allegations against anybody, apparently now, and we don't need any sort of evidence whatsoever to be able to ruin somebody's credibility or to ruin somebody's vocation. Fuck that. That is not what the justice system is based on. What's that? AI recordings? Well, there is that too. Mainstream media's a fucking joke, we know that. We know that they only report their narrative. Fuck cancel culture. Very true. This is very, very true. Okay, so let's get stuck into some news, shall we? As I said earlier, it was a very mixed bag. Some of it's interesting, some of it's not so much, but we'll try and get through as much of it as we can. Okay, where are we? Present, share screen. This one I thought was a little bit odd. A law restricting non-family member adults from living together is upheld in court. Opponents are planning to appeal. An ordinance restricting what the city council call a co-living in a single-family house was upheld in a federal court. Co-living is a common tactic to afford housing, especially if you're young. The tactic remains outlawed in Shawnee. I don't understand how this is a thing. You're not allowed to have a roommate? Like, while opponents plan to appeal the motion of this lawsuit, they're still concerned how this will impact people struggling to afford a home. Data from Redfin shows houses in Shawnee are averaging just under $400,000 and are still in high demand, with homes lasting just an average of 19 days on the market. While most rentals are over $1,000 a month. Damn. Housing at... $250 a week. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Don't know why that seemed more than it was. Housing activists like Jay Moyer argue this shows people rely on friends at a time at times to afford a place to live. We need to make sure that our laws are equitable for everyone, Moyer said. There's absolutely no reason for it to be illegal for me to move in with 3 of my friends if it's going to help us share the cost of our rent. The ordinance was first passed by Shawnee City Council unanimously in 2022, outlawing what's labelled a single housekeeping unit from having 4 or more people who aren't related by marriage or blood living in it. In most cases, all it takes is one person not related to a family of more than 3 to make the entire unit a violation of the ordinance. So, someone's a family friend, down on their luck, they sleep on the couch for a month, all of a sudden the entire family's in violation of a city ordinance. This, to me, is bullshit. What was that? The text showed they were clearly edited. Why would this be illegal? Presumably to try and stop single parents or from, like, I don't know, homosexual couples from sharing. I don't know. This makes no sense to me. Some locals argue it isn't what the zoning codes are meant for. It's not based on the square footage of the home. It's not based on the number of bedrooms in the home, Shawnee resident Lisa Larson-Burnell told KCTV. It's not based on all these other things that would make sense. It's just based on if people are related. In previous city council meetings, other residents have voiced concerns of rental companies buying up homes in the neighbourhoods and renting out individual rooms that would lead to loud noises and too many cars blocking the street. Pacific Legal, who represents opponents of the ordinance, said it would appeal the initial ruling in the 10th Circuit. Pacific Legal argues the ordinance oversteps personal livelihoods without solving noise or parking issues. That's really what they hung their hat on in order to get this? Oh, because a company's coming in, buying up a property, and then renting out individual rooms, which is basically a share house. But because of that, they're saying, oh, it causes parking and noise issues. How about you just enforce the parking and noise ordinances rather than, making it so that individuals can't share a house? It's a very strong case. The government has no business telling you can and can't. Has no business to who you can and can't invite into your home, said David Dearson. They have no business discriminating against people based on their family relationships. What's that? Abomination says they hate money, obviously, as if a whole family wouldn't have multiple cars and throw parties. It's very true. Look, I can kind of understand if this is like a college town and the residents are like, well, we think that there's too many people sharing a house. They have rambunctious parties. They park all over, like they block drivers, all this sort of shit. That's fine. But that's got nothing to do with who lives in a house. Again, enforce the parking ordinances. Enforce the noise complaints. That's the shit where they... God, local councils should give me the shits. What's that? Shawnee Ordinance, Section 1018. Failure to place or maintain a smoke detector. Clearly racist. Quality of life issue. The companies are also buying up all the smarter homes so no one can afford them. Okay. I don't care. The government shouldn't be interfering in private business. Different times in my life, I had roommates, either that or be homeless. Exactly. The city manager of Shawnee told KCTV over the phone that they're pleased with the judge's ruling, but would not comment further. We don't have a video on this one, do we? No. This is just, it's stupid to me. They've got no business in... Okay. A man's home is his castle. If he owns the property, he should have every right to do whatever he wants within the bounds of that property. I don't care. What someone does behind closed doors is their own damn business. That includes who they live with, who they fuck, and... Okay, well, within reason. I mean, obviously we're not talking about, CP or that sort of thing. Don't even think a college town would be able to avoid these problems. A bunch of apartments, all with one occupant each. They could still throw wild parties every day. This is true. That ordinance should be protested against. Yeah, well, I mean, look, they've taken it to court, and apparently they're going to have to appeal it because the 10th Circuit Federal decided to approve the city ordinance. So, I don't know. It's just, it's wild to me. Okay. The polite message from Melbourne's drug dealers to keep customers. A sophisticated drug dealing network operating in Melbourne has encouraged its customers to migrate away from using the soon-to-be defunct encrypted messaging Wicker to rival platform Signal. Melbourne residents signed up to a Wicker-based drug delivery service have been instructed to stop using the Amazon-owned app before it's shut down on December 31. The app has been widely used by drug dealers, hackers, and CP twisted fuckers is what I was going for, in Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. A Melbourne group advertising more than 15 types of drugs, including cocaine, ketamine, and MDMA, has instructed Wicker users to maintain the same aliases when switching apps to enable them to keep the business running efficiently. We're starting to place orders through Signal as well, following the same order from our original format, they wrote in a message to users seen by The Age. We appreciate our loyal customer base and would love to keep this running smoothly and provide you with the best privacy and make it easier for us to create orders. Wicker users are sent out a menu of what drugs are available and told to text through their pseudonym, phone number, address, and preferred delivery time with their order. The Melbourne dealers then send a message back with the total cost of the order and a delivery time. Are they actually legit here? Guys, we finally have our edibles menu back. We've got brand new chocolate bars that are tasty as hell. They are the best chocolate bars we've had. Try our flavors: milk chocolate, honeycomb, and black forest. Cookie dough has landed as well. See, we've got this going on, and then all of a sudden the Australian Capital Territory is decriminalising all this shit, so these guys don't have to do this. Like, what the fuck? Bulk buy. Couple of things we noticed makes your experience with Pantopic easier. If you have a question about a potential order, sending through an order form with the question in the same message will ensure we can get your order on a run and save you time back and forth messaging. We start the day with a backlog of messages we work hard to get through. It sounds like an actual fucking business. This is hilarious. Each time you send another message, it actually sends your messages back to the end of the list. We want to get you to your orders as fast as we can, so please be patient when messaging. All orders are a $200 minimum. It's an extra 40, 50, 60 bucks, depending on where you are from the CBD. City drops are riskier, hence the added fee. That's hilarious. Please fill out the details below. Fees are calculated based on substances and distance required to travel to make the delivery. City drops attract an additional $30 fee due to added risk of making a drug delivery in the city. Dealers on Wicker offered most of the Class A drugs commonly used in Australia, alongside a range of prescription medication, including antipsychotic and antidepressant medications, in a message to their network that went out this month. Upon delivery, be waiting outside, ready to accept orders, or designate a spot for your order to be left so our drivers can stick to schedule. It is always best to order as early as possible, as we have a backlog of orders and can take a few hours to get to you. We start the day with a backlog of messages. I read through that. If you haven't heard back from us in an hour or so, most of the time it's because we're working through a backlog. Victoria Police said they were aware of illicit activity occurring across online platforms, including the acquisition and sale of illegal drugs. The supply of illicit drugs online and via social media is an evolving part of modern policing. We will continue to investigate and charge people engaged in unlawful online activity, including the supply of illicit drugs. Victoria Police continues to target the drugs that do the most harm, working at a local level with crime investigation units and with the Australian Federal Police and Border Force. Police are working tirelessly to reduce the supply of drugs in Victoria. However, drug use as a whole is a whole of community issue. That's just terrible phrasing. Which requires a collaborative approach to address. This sounds like my guy. He's got a website menu delivery fee over $20. Now he has magic mushrooms too. Drug dealing is a business, a respectable one. It's ironic that drug dealing is considered a more respectable franchise than certain things. Pretty slick routine. Amazon stopped accepting new users for Wicker in January ahead of its shutdown, which the company said would allow it to focus on its business and public sector customer base. Amazon and Signal Foundation did not respond to requests for comments. It would be funny if the drug bans were so crazy that the drug dealer offers cotton candy bubble gum, which turns out just to be Advil. Take 3 pints of Rocky Road and a couple of plastic spoons. Oh. Hey, Mandy, how you doing? Sounds like it's a really easy way to get busted. It kind of feels like that. I'm not going to lie. And I mean, if it's broadcast all over the daily newspaper, then maybe, just maybe, there's better things to do with your time. Okay, and something a little more depressing. Harrowing surveillance footage captures street execution of an 80-year-old New York City man by bike-pedaling gunman. Shocking surveillance video captures a marvelous 80-year-old man being executed on a Bronx street on Sunday by a bike-pedaling gunman clad like a ninja, as the victim's wife watches in horror. Marcelino Valerio and his spouse had just arrived home from a Sweet 16 party. An 80-year-old at a Sweet 16 party, okay. And gotten out of the car dropping them off when the elderly man was shot dead in front of 1209 Ogden Avenue in Highbridge at around 1:10 a.m. His killer, dressed in head-to-toe in black, complete with a black ski mask, had ridden up next to him on the sidewalk and shot him twice, including point-blank in the head. The footage shows his wife staggering in shock as two hysterical women rush out of the car and desperately signal around them for help. Moments earlier, the shooter had been riding past the building in the other direction, apparently waiting for them to arrive. Before circling back when the car pulled up, the footage shows. The gunman fled on his bike after the shooting and remains at large. Oh look, more New York pussies who can't fair fight anyone. Police have yet to reveal a motive for the horror, which occurred after he and his wife returned home from the joyful party at New Rochelle in Westchester County, law enforcement sources said. The building superintendent at a previous address for him called the victim called him hardworking and calm. That's what you want to hear. He wasn't out in the streets, he was a homebody, said worker Rafael de Leon, who recalled that Valerio had a wife and a daughter. No problems ever arose with him. He was a marvelous person. Police sources said he only had one prior arrest for DWI back in 1993. Was a hit. Check the life insurance policy. Is it wrong that that's exactly where my brain went as well? 80-year-old, middle of was it Brooklyn? All right, let's have a look. Gird your loins and let's play it just to be safe. All right, so he's getting out. Guy's coming back. Okay, is that them though, or is that? Yep, so that's them there up in the upper corner. Yeah, okay. So for obvious reasons, the actual shot wasn't on camera, but he missed his shot though, because if you have a look, I mean, he sure as shit took his time that way. Oh, that said trigger warning. I almost misread that. He's 80. The gunman waited for inserted circle to kill. Only gentleman is shot. The gentleman was shot. It's a hit. It does very much seem that way. It really does. Damn! Look at the police presence. We have an 80-year-old white man shot. We require all officers on the scene. Like seriously, holy crap! That was a quick response as well. Okay. All right. Moving on. Where are we? Oh, yes. Someone spotted the car from Bluey in real life. The Healer family's license plate was spotted out in the wild, and in Queensland, no less. But what's the actual car used in the popular TV series? It's official. Aside from the Ugg boots and Margot Robbie, Bluey might be Australia's greatest export. Well, clearly they don't know about me. The ABC children's television series has taken the world by storm and educated overseas audiences about certain Australianisms. For example, how we pronounce airport as airport, and view buying a sausage in bread at a hardware store as a national pastime. Yes, there will be more Discord parties. The donut shop was next door. Seems like a hit. See you, Rabbit. From the catchy theme song to the adorable squeaky voice of the protagonist, the show features plenty of instantly recognizable references, but only true fans will be able to recite the Healer's family license plate from memory. 419 HLR. Because it's 419 Healer. I'm sure that there's something behind that. I really am. The family of four drives a bold orange SUV of unknown origin wearing Queensland plates that read 419 HLR. I'm almost positive that it's something that it's like some sort of Jeep. Have a look. My Appalachian child says I need to pee in an Aussie accent because of that show. Sorry, not sorry. Sausage at a hardware store was great. Norm Macdonald was a great Norm Macdonald Pollock joke. Okay. There she is. As it turns out, the license plate isn't a work of pure fiction. One lucky viewer took to the Facebook group for Bluey fans to share a snap of the same license plate on a Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. In Queensland, no less. I'm disappointed that it wasn't at least tan or brown or orange, because the car does come in those colours. That's a bit funny. Some quick investigative journalism from Drive Magazine. Yeah, sure. Okay. Revealed this particular license plate is actually pretty hard to come by in Australia, with only 3 cars able to claim the honour of bearing the Healer's family digits. Yeah, and only one in Queensland, which is where the show is set. So this is it. This is the legitimate Bluey car. Yes, Digger, that's why it's funny. That's why that's the joke. Bluey is a blue healer. That's why the license plate having HLR for healer is funny. Hold up, Australia is responsible for UGG boots. Ready the ICBMs. Yes, well, I mean, so Australia is said to have been built on the back of the sheep. Because unlike Queensland, we don't get behind them, we get on top. Actually, that doesn't work anyway. Moving on. How would somebody remember that? Oh, trust me, when you're enough of a fan of the TV show, people remember it. The Mitsubishi Pajero Sport in Queensland is the closest to the real thing, plus there's a Ford Ranger in New South Wales and a Toyota Land Cruiser in the Northern Territory. Oh, look. There's the Ranger. That's a bit funny. While the license plate is spot on, the titanium grey Pajero Sport is visually a far cry from the Healer's family's funky orange four-wheel drive. So what is the car? Yeah, that looks pretty close. Bears a striking resemblance to the 2023 GWM Tank 300 in dusk orange, but the show predates the tank's arrival in Australia. Yeah. I'd say someone's trying to capitalize on the popularity of the show. Why do you guys not like us? No, it's not a vanity plate. That's actually issued by the state. Why would you not like UGG boots? Bobby, if you do not like hot chicks walking around in UGG boots, you are just... I have to revoke your man card. Blue Mighty meets mine when I told him Australia has the highest minimum wage. Hayden was like, oh yeah, we do. People move here because of that. Yeah, it's true. It's very much true. We have a... So, for us, minimum wage is literally... It's a sufficient wage that you can have a roof over your head. Not necessarily like buy a house or anything, but it's certainly enough to make minimum payments for a rental or whatever else. If minimum wage for you is not enough, obviously there's government assistance and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we very much have one of the highest minimum wages in the world. Hot chicks in UGG boots. When the hell has that ever happened, dude? You need to come to Australia. How much is it USD? Okay, hang on. 1 sec. Minimum wage. Oz. Current amount is USD. Okay, so national minimum wage. Now, this is the bare minimum under the national employment standards, which nobody gets paid under. This one is literally the catch-all. You cannot have a job in Australia without getting paid $15.38 an hour, plus superannuation, which is an additional 10%. So you're actually getting paid at bare minimum about $16.50 per hour. Beyond that, we also have what's called the National Awards System, which is basically the bare minimum for each individual industry. For example, in legal services, you got the Legal Services Award, you've got the Hospitality Award, you've got the Hairdressing Award. All of those set out minimum wages for each individual industry, basically. So, big employers love minimum wage. What's that? Puss in Boots versus Dingo in Uggs. That could be funny. Hot chicks, you mean same-looking soccer mums that even their kids can't tell apart? No, I'm talking about some of the higher earners on OnlyFans. Not that I've done any research or anything, but it's not uncommon for college-age chicks to be walking around in very little and a pair of UGG boots over here. That's sort of just the done thing. Uggs were part of the basic white girl winter uniform when I was in school. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the bare minimum wage is for like a 14-year-old. Yep. So, all right, where the hell did I get to? Okay, the new Ford Bronco bears a striking resemblance to the Bluey-mobile, particularly in race red. Meanwhile, Drive's production editor Ken Casey reckons the grille is a dead ringer for one of the old Nissan Patrol GQ models. I do actually think that one's a little bit closer. Forget the minimum wage, I'm moving for the chicks. One bluey car that's a little less ambiguous is the green ute that features in the season 3 episode Tradies, which looks like a mashup of a Ford Falcon and a Holden Commodore ute. I thought this was hilarious because it's very clear that they were not trying to put either of the major car brands into the show, but still have it as like true Australiana. So there's two main types of utes that you have here in Australia, or you had before the car manufacturing companies pulled out, which was your Holden Commodore, which was your sort of cutback ute, and then your Ford Falcon ute. And what they've done here is taken bits and pieces of each of them and combined them into one single ute, which I thought was hilarious. When asked what model of ute the animators used for inspiration, he said, "All I can say is it we were very inspired by everyday Australian life, but represent one thing in exact entirety would be a legal nightmare. Art direction lives and dies by mashups." Exactly. I'm fairly confident that's the re-spoiler off a Club Sport. What model do you think this SUV is off for lighting the poll? I'll be right. I still think that's probably more than likely what they based it off, though. Aussie chicks in nothing but boots. Can't live in Oz where there's spiders as big as your head. That's fair enough. What the fuck is a ute? A ute is a cut down. So, an Australian ute, a utility vehicle, is Australia's answer to a pickup truck. They're sleeker, they're lower, they generally have a higher towing capacity, but it's not like the utes in My Cousin Vinny. That's utes. A ute. Hang on, let me pull up the quintessential ute. What do I want to do? Do I want to do Holden or do I want to do Ford? Let's just do a variety of utes. Where are we? Images. Oh, see, I consider a Hilux to be more of a pickup anyway. It's not really a traditional ute. There's your traditional ute. Alright, let's do some of these. You actually going to show the photo, or are you going to take me to the... Of course you are. Alright. So that's your sort of traditional looking ute. It's got the tray in the back. You can throw a mattress in the back, take a chick out to a paddock and sit under the stars, or you can put hay bales in. Because the idea of the ute was they took a sedan, they cut the back out of it so that they could then use it on the farm to move like all sorts of shit. Are they classified as trucks for insurance purposes? I actually don't know. I would consider them to still be light vehicles. So, it's like an SUV but with a bed not enclosed. Yeah, kind of. I mean, most of them are 4x4 because it's you just want that basically on a farm. So, because then you've got your more traditional sort of. Where are we? That's a... Oh, that's better. There. So, that's your Holden... Oh, fuck off. That's your Holden ute there, which is sort of what I'm talking about in terms of what they've done in Bluey, is that they've sort of stolen that. But that's your sort of base. You've got your pickup truck with a separate cabin and cargo tray, whereas ours doesn't have the breakup between the tray and the rear as well. So... What's that? Coupe utility? Meh. Anyway, that got really off track. Okay, where are we? Because I wanted to have a bit of a rant about this one, didn't I? Oh, actually, no, let's do this. Calls for courts to better acknowledge family violence in property settlement cases. The federal government wants instances of family violence to be given greater consideration in property settlements between separating couples to better recognise the ongoing financial impact of abuse. Family violence has been a factor for the courts in ruling on the division of assets in the past, but has never been explicitly included in the Family Law Act. That has led to concerns about how the principles are applied and whether there is inconsistency across the country based on different interpretations of previous court judgments. The case law has not been clear, said Attorney General Mark Dreyfus. It enables the courts to recognise family violence carries real financial impact and is something that can be directly taken into account in family law property determinations by the courts. Family disputes are complex. Resolving property disputes is equally complex. Yell at your spouse and lose your house. A number of inquiries has recommended that the legislative, including the landmark review of the family law system by the Australian Law Reform Commission, which was delivered to government in March 2019. We see that there is a real appetite for reform in the Family Law Act, said Dreyfus. There have been dozens of inquiries over the past decades, most of them making recommendations which have never been acted on, and we're getting on with the job. Lawyer and domestic and family violence prevention advocate Angela Lynch described it as an important change. I need to change that screen because that is flickering and is driving me batshit crazy. Women's groups and domestic violence groups have called for these changes for over a decade. However, what they've seen is the enormous impact family violence has on financial, economic outcomes for women after they separate from violent marriages and relationships. It will provide more consistency in what the approach should be, and really will educate both lawyers and a community about what the impacts of economically of what violence are. That is just is it just me, or are some of these not today's getting derailed, Hayden? I'm trying to get. Is my brain just not working, or do some of these sentences not make sense? Like they're being deliberately verbose and obtuse. Too many spiders on the power lines. Nobody marries me anymore. I wonder why. Well, yeah, because a whole bunch of people are like, hey, by the way, getting married is not a good choice anymore. I mean, even scrolling through YouTube shorts, there's a whole bunch of women that are saying, yeah, this is why men are not doing this anymore. This is why they have understood. And I'm like, because I know that a lot of people have a go at Drex about, his opinions on marriage and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, after a certain point, when you have women saying, yeah, we don't think it's a good idea for them either, it's like, well, okay, maybe there's something to it. They're paid by the word, quite possibly. What we've seen over the decades is women being driven into poverty and homelessness after separation, after women in circumstances of domestic violence will walk away with absolutely nothing. This provision... Okay, but how do we take into account the men that are being completely emasculated to the point where they're the subservient ones? I mean, I want to make sure that this act applies equally across genders. All 136 different genders. This provision will allow to be made much more consistently, I think more confidently for lawyers who are the lawyers for victims of domestic violence. They can have more confidence that the court is going to hear those arguments and take those on board. It also includes measures aimed at stopping separating couples from hiding assets from each other as their relationship breaks down. The duty of disclosure will outline specific requirements of what information is to be shared by the parties to property disputes and the consequences for not complying. Imposing a clear duty on all parties to dispute under the Family Law Act is important, and I think it will support easy resolution of disputes. The draft resolution has been released for public consultation, which is open until mid-November. Oh, and men walk away with nothing. Get the fuck out of there. Well, no fault divorce was a bad idea. For science, can you say H? H? H! There you go, Ginger. What's that? Why can't we pick our own baby daddies? I don't know. For the most part, the ones that are picking their baby daddies have to have magical lady bits, I think. Hello, Jude. Marriage is a hard sell since many don't go well. Well, times are changing. And I mean, look, as someone who we got to meet and hang out with Ricada, Val, Kurt, and Drex, etc. last night. That was a good time. Oh, I'm going to get to that because you guys made the news. Now say Cool Whip. Cool Whip. What's wrong with Cool Whip? Two of my best friends told me yesterday they're getting a divorce. Didn't think one would ever get divorced. Surprised the other lasted so long. Huh. Well, there you go. draft legislation has been released for public consultation. Okay, well, there we go. Nick made the news again. No, I'm being facetious, but there was something about... I just thought it was funny because there was some drunk people that made the news in Nashville, and I included it. I don't actually know if it was them, but I just think the story itself was funny if I apply it to them and imagine so. Was never married, but had 2 children from a cold bitch. Oh, sorry about that. Married or de facto, really no difference after 20 years. Married or de facto, almost no difference after 6 months in the eyes of the law. But anyway. Alrighty, where are we? New York City oral surgeon sexually harassed his chauffeur by obsessively talking about his own small penis, according to a lawsuit. This guy was walking around admitting that he has a small penis, and it made his chauffeur uncomfortable. An oral surgeon relentlessly sexually harassed his chauffeur, obsessively talking about his own small penis and asking the driver to turn around and look while he touched himself. Okay, that makes it... A Brooklyn Supreme Court suit filed last week claimed that Christopher Jackson, 43, was hired to be Dr. Gabriel Hirschman's personal driver in April 22, taking him from his Queens home to his Jewish studies to get coffee and then to his 65th Street office in Brooklyn, and finally back home at the end of the day. But Jackson, who lives in Brooklyn, quit his job with Hirschman and his father's medical practice, the Hirschman Group Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, on June 1, 2022. He lasted less than 2 months. Because of incessant sexual harassment, the court papers allege. There is not a human being that is trying to work... What? There is not a human being that is trying to work hard to earn a living that should have been subjected to the type of treatment. And I think it's absolutely horrible, Jackson said. A father of a 9-year-old daughter told the New York Post. Why is the fact that he's a father of a 9-year-old daughter relevant? Unless she was in the car, in which case the guy needs to be strung and quartered. Man is a macaroni noodle. One way or another, the driver was getting a tip. Jackson worked Monday through Friday and was on call from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. to drive Hirschman around in his Cadillac Escalade, though the doctor wouldn't let Jackson use the car for any personal reasons, the filing claims. Starting in mid-April, Hirschman, 40, began talking about the small size of his penis, which became an obsessive topic of conversation. Bringing up the topic at least 4 times a week, including saying he wished he could add inches to it, the suit claims. 4 times a week. And if he's on call 7 days a week? Yeah, okay. The doctor also told Jackson about his horrible sex life with his wife and joked that the driver's sex life, including once telling Jackson that if they passed by a motel, a rotund black woman named Shaniqua would come to your room and sit on your face. You know you want that. And the filing charges. I really had to play with that one on the fly. I'm hoping that didn't necessarily offend anyone. The doctor also on multiple occasions alleged that allegedly asked Jackson to look at him while he rubbed his groin over his clothes, making moaning sounds and saying he was about to ejaculate, the claim says. And that when Jackson began refusing to look, the doctor would insist on making eye contact with him in the rearview mirror. Jackson would continually request that these conversations cease, but the doctor wouldn't relent, forcing Jackson to quit, the court documents claim. He didn't care. Jackson said of the doctor's response when I asked him to stop, he has money and his father has money, and he thinks that's something that's going to save him from everything. Let it be known that the Lorax pays his debt. Thank you, Jeff, but you really didn't have to do that. I majorly appreciate that. For anyone that doesn't know, Vice has lost a bet because he said, oh, I bet $100 that Hayden's wearing his camo shorts. And I just happen to be wearing my ones with Nickelodeon characters on it, so... We don't kink shame in the house. Well, maybe a little. On the opposite of that, some women have large clits. Maybe she should have penetrated him. Lannister Loraxes always pay the debts. Yep. At that point, where's your boss? I don't know. Don't look in the trunk. Good God. Jackson said Hirschman's conduct is even worse considering he works in the medical profession and is an honorary NYPD surgeon, according to Hirschman's LinkedIn. Hirschman has everything, Jackson said, including a wife and kids, a multi-million-dollar home, and a thriving business. He walks around like he's a model citizen in his religious community, in the business community, and also in the New York City Police Department as well. I hope that he's held accountable. I hope that he doesn't do that to anybody else. According to Jackson, when he decided to quit, he confronted Hirschman with a recording he'd taken of the alleged misconduct. Because, you know, why not? So... the doctor didn't deny anything, and instead he apologized and said he was joking and it was all locker room talk. At what point is the backseat of an Escalade considered a locker room? Just because we're in the car doesn't mean we're still in a work environment, Jackson recalled saying to Hirschman. I'm not going to allow myself to be subjected to this any longer, Jackson also recounted saying to the doctor. The former driver is suing Hirschman, his dad, and the practice for unspecified damages over an alleged hostile work environment and for allegedly stiffing Jackson on overtime wages, despite his being on call for roughly 70 hours a week, the filing says. Oh dear. Jackson's lawyer, John Bell, told the Post sexual harassment can take many forms and that it isn't just a problem between men and women or just coming on somebody. Just talking in a very sexual way with one of your employee subordinates is a violation. Chris, rightfully so, felt uncomfortable. All Jackson is doing is trying to support himself and his family during these tough times, and the arrogance of this physician to turn around and treat Chris like that, not only with the blatant statements, but to treat him unfairly with the amount of wages, is really an egregious case. Jason Zoldesi, a lawyer for Hirschman and the company, told the Post, Jackson is someone who admittedly has been dealing with mental health issues. Oh, of course! I sexually assaulted someone, so I'm going to hide behind mental health. Why not? Okay. Sorry, just saw something that I need to deal with, which is fine. When confronted with his termination, he fabricated this salacious narrative. Our clients intend to fight the claims aggressively. Bell said Zoldesi's statement is patently false. We find it incredulous that Dr. Hirschman, instead of taking responsibility for his atrocious conduct, is now trying to spin the narrative that Mr. Jackson was somehow terminated. We look forward to addressing this in court. In what universe is firing him in the middle of all this any better than the fact that he quit? Okay, let's see how I can turn this around and make sure that I don't get sued. Yeah, I think making it sound like I terminated him while I was sexually harassing him, I think that makes it sound so much better, don't you think? Like, what the fuck, dude? Hirschman didn't return a request for comment. Because why would he? I hear the Chinese have hundreds of cures for that, mostly involving parts of endangered species, rhinos, white Bengal tiger scrote, elephant schlong, manatee lips, etc. Was he a big tipper? No, clearly not. There's only a little bit of stiffing. Hang on, where did I... Oh, shit, I closed my Rumble page. Sorry, guys, I'm assuming you're talking in chat and I just lost it. Won't be a second. My content. Okay. Speaking of using animals for stuff, federal lawsuit names Clark County among culprits in plight of tortoise. Oh, that's right. It's just Abomination lighting up the chat. Hey, buddy, how you doing? There's 22 of you watching, though, and a whole 6 of you have hit the like button, and which is a good time for me to say there are 72 of you watching the current live. Maybe, just maybe, if you've been enjoying the content, maybe hit the like button? And consider a subscription, because let's face it, my numbers are dropping like YouTube is slicing up my channel like a piece of meat at a carvery. I don't think that's really got anything to do with things. I think it's more just the drive-by subscribers are getting removed. But it's still just slightly depressing. Okay. Federal lawsuit names Clark County amongst culprits in plight of tortoise. An environmental conservation group is suing the federal government and Clark County on claims of failing to protect the Mojave Desert tortoise, and other wildlife species in the southern Nevada from habitat destruction caused by illegal grazing on federal lands that can be partially attributed to noted rancher Cliven Bundy. The Western Watersheds Project, an Idaho-based nonprofit with more than 14,000 members nationally and offices in 11 western states, including Nevada, why that was relevant, filed a 29-page complaint on Thursday in the U.S. District Court of Columbia. The lawsuit names Clark County, as well as Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Bureau, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, and the U.S. Forest Service and Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. The group argues that defendants have failed to protect the Mojave Desert tortoise, which it claims should be considered endangered, as well as 77 other rare species subject to the Multiple Species Habitat Cohabilitation Plan, or the MSHAP. The plan was agreed to in 2001, allowing for the development of about 170,000 acres on the outskirts of Las Vegas in exchange for increased wildlife protections, according to the filing. For decades, the group argued unchecked trespass livestock grazing has decimated the tortoise population, throwing it into long-term decline and potential extinction that could be further exacerbated by a slew of solar projects spanning more than 13,000 acres of the tortoise habitat. Yes, and we're going to talk solar in just a minute. Between the impacts of Clive Bundy's 30 years of trespass livestock grazing in the Gold Butte National Monument and the conservation of ungrazed desert habitats to solar farms, the conversion, not conservation, conversion of habitat to solar farms, the desert tortoise and other species are getting cheated out of their side of the Habitat Conservation Plan bargain, said Eric Mulva, the executive director of the Western Watersheds Project, in a news release announcing the lawsuit. These species were supposed to be getting increased protection on public lands in Clark County in exchange for having their habitat on private lands permanently destroyed, but the federal agencies have failed to deliver. The Department of the Interior and Clark County declined to comment, citing ongoing litigation. The Western Watersheds Project argues that the terms of the MSHAP were supposedly to permanently close the area to livestock grazing, though Bundy has notoriously continued to illegally graze his cattle in trespass on these fragile desert lands, the release states. Bundy is not mentioned in the complaint. The nonprofit further alleges that the solar projects approved by BLM... I'm sorry, what? When did they get involved? Will fragment and degrade tortoise habitat on further lands, and due to their falling population, constitutes a violation of the Endangered Species Act. Ute. Okay. How do you read the crap without dark mode? I don't know, I thought I had dark mode on. I'm a little bit confused as to how this page does not... Did I turn dark mode off? I must have. That actually may explain a little bit, thinking about it. There's like 99% of Nevada that's still perfect tortoise habitat. They're one of the hardest animals to kill, and they will do just fine. They get a lot of sun, which means they're black. Duh. No. Yeah, I was making a joke, people. You don't have to crawl up my ass about the Bureau of Land Management. Bundy, 78, was accused of leading an armed standoff that stopped federal agents from rounding up his cattle in 2014 after failing to pay grazing permit fees since 1993, amassing more than $1 million in fines. A mistrial was declared in 2018, and the 15 counts against him and his sons were ultimately dismissed in federal court. The standoff was sparked after protesters, many of whom were armed, traveled to his Bunkerville ranch about 80 miles northeast of Las Vegas from around the country en masse to prevent BLM agents from seizing the cattle. Bundy, a proponent of the sovereign citizens movement, has argued his family had owned the ranch since before the federal agents held jurisdiction, thus rendering the government's authority meritless. The protests ultimately culminated in an hours-long blockade of Interstate 15 near Bunkerville on April 12, 2014, that entailed a standoff between protesters and approximately 200 federal agents. Your government money, your tax dollars well spent by the government. The then Clark County Assistant Sheriff and now Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo reportedly diffused the situation, leading BLM to ultimately stand down and suspend the cattle roundup. Many of the protesters included far-right militia members from extremist groups such as the Oath Keepers and 3 Percenters, who stayed at the ranch after the standoff ended. Bundy was quoted in 2018 saying that if the BLM ever came to seize his cattle over unpaid grazing fees again, they would encounter the very same thing as last time. Environmentalists would rather protect tortoises than cattle and whatever other farm animal. This is true. Somebody call the Aussie cops. Hayden's joking again. Oh, you don't know the half of it, Mandy. I've been working on some pretty bad jokes for the comedy special, and I've got 3 jokes so far. Like, I'm really putting effort into it. Like, I'm only writing down the really funny ones. The trouble is, most of them are just going to piss people off and may just get me cancelled, so it's probably going to be a Rumble-only thing. Oh, we have a $5 super chat from the Amateur Iconoclast. Are these the turtles that pee themselves when startled and die of dehydration? I have no idea. But if that's really a thing, that's a bit funny. That's Charles Darwin making sure that certain species of evolution doesn't make it through the day. That's for sure. So, there is that. All right, let me clear up some of these tabs. Got that. That's the one that I've got open at the moment. Okay. How a smitten brothel owner nearly upended a murder trial. Fuck off. There were 2 men who loved Ellie Price. One was her killer. The other was a multi-millionaire brothel tycoon whose close relationship with Price nearly derailed the prosecution's case. Price was found dead inside her South Melbourne home, her throat slit from ear to ear. Over the past month, in the Supreme Court, the 26-year-old's life was laid bare in front of a jury. The exotic dancer was in a volatile on-and-again, off-again relationship with a crime family member, Ricardo Barbaro, 36. The prosecution alleged that he brutally murdered Price in her own home during the early hours of April 29, 2020. Police found her body on the floor of her bedroom with 6 stab wounds, including a large laceration to her neck. He then made off with her $100,000 Mercedes-Benz, dumping it at Diggers Rest in Melbourne's northwest before fleeing to New South Wales. On Friday, the jury found him guilty of murder. It was a trial that almost didn't happen. The first was aborted after a juror allegedly researched the case in contravention of jury instructions. The second was abandoned after the defense obtained fresh content from a mobile phone of a prosecution witness. The prosecution alleged that Barbaro, who pled not guilty to murder, and Price had been in a volatile relationship marred by jealousy. But during the trial, it emerged that there was another man in Price's life, brothel boss Mark Gray. Oh, of course, because Harry Potter's owned by Warner Brothers. I was sitting there thinking, how the hell is Bugs Bunny wearing a Gryffindor outfit? The existence of Gray and his relationship with Price almost upended the prosecution's case. We say he's slippery and dishonest, the defense barrister Rishi Nathwani said. Barbaro had no motive. Gray did. An extortion for $100,000, spurned advances, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. She always chose others. He was, you might think, obsessed with her. Gray considered Price his soulmate, meeting her at the Men's Gallery strip club in 2017 before he began funding her lavish lifestyle for years. This included giving the young woman a $2,000 a week allowance, paying for her car and rent. It was also revealed in court. This guy was just her baby daddy. Not baby daddy, sugar daddy. It was also revealed in court that the days before her death, she'd attempted to extort him for $100,000, threatening to report that he raped her. Damn it, I said the R word. At the time, Gray was running brothels A Touch of Class, Liaisons, and Stilettos in New South Wales. Text messages between Gray and Price's family after her death indicated that he was in the process of applying for a license to open a multi-million-dollar South Melbourne brothel, Harem, which he had been renovating with Price. Other text messages showed that the jury showed that Gray was worried about the Price family telling the police and court about his business operations. He allegedly manipulated them into withholding information from the police and the court about his involvement with brothels and payments to Price. Gray told the court that he'd been worried about his 92-year-old mother finding out about the court proceedings, but conceded she knew he ran adult venues and had even planned to visit one to change the linen. Oh my god. Granny's going through the brothel to make sure the beds are clean. I have so many comments that are not proper at all. Go for it. The court heard that Gray also penned eulogies for Price's funeral, revealing that he felt like a jar of honey was being poured over his head when he first arrived at her house for a date with a rose in one hand. He later told a mortician to make sure her body looks smoking hot ahead of her funeral. Gray denies being infatuated with Price or acting as her sugar daddy. Best of luck trying to deny that, mate. Nathwani said messages on Gray's phone showed that he had long-held feelings for Price and had felt replaced by Barbaro. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, Gray wrote. Price's family leaving court following the verdict. Oh, at least they got some justice, I suppose. Gray, whose former name is Mark Gudensky. Oh, I thought I reckoned. Okay. He's not accused of any involvement in Price's death. The jury earlier heard Barbaro, the last known person to have contact with Price, was captured on CCTV driving away in the early hours of the morning in the white Mercedes-Benz that Gray had purchased for her. Barbaro then drove to meet his father in Williamstown before spending a night with a family friend. He then dropped off the distinctive car at a rural property at Diggers Rest before renting a van and driving to New South Wales, where he was arrested on May 14, 2020. Yeah, you're not really going to miss that car. CCTV footage played to the jury showed that Barbaro had injuries to his hands and arms. He's a descendant of the Barbaro crime family who have known links to the Calabrian mafia. His brother, Sydney underworld boss Pasquale Timothy Barbaro, was murdered in 2016 in a gangland hit. Another of his brothers, Queensland man Rosario Dom Barbaro, then took his own life at the age of 28, only months after his older sibling's murder. Another brother, Harley Barbaro, lives on the Gold Coast and is an alleged Mongols bikie gang member. All four brothers are sons of Melbourne man Joe Barbaro, whose cousin, gangland figure Pasquale Barbaro, was gunned down alongside Jason Moran in a van outside a children's football training session in Essendon in 2003. His then baby sister Montana was also snatched from her car seat in a Brimback shopping centre during a brazen kidnapping in 2004. She was found 2 days later with a shaved head in a derelict house in North Melbourne after passersby heard her cries. Ricardo Barbaro's grandfather, who was also named Pasquale Barbaro, was gunned down in a gangland hit in Brisbane in 1990. Then in 2012, another related Pasquale Barbaro, the son of Joe's uncle, was sentenced to life in prison for importing what was then the world's biggest ecstasy hall in Melbourne. The family have a mistrust, perhaps unsurprising, given they've lost two brothers with police involvement in some way or another, said Nathwani during the trial. On Friday, Barbaro briefly closed his eyes and took a sip of water after the verdict was read out. Price's mother, sister, and other family members sobbed and consoled each other. One supporter yelled, "Rot in hell, you scum," in his direction as she left the court. He will return to court in October for a plea hearing. Yep. Guilty of murder. May still get... Oh, hang on, that's not him. Where are we? Lovely. Found guilty of murder, may still get a plea deal. Wearing a miniskirt to court is classy. Bikie gang, damn Aussies. Is this a movie? That picture looked like Vin Diesel. No, not so much. Not so much. Okay, where do we get to? I hired a private investigator to follow my fiancé. I'm devastated by what they found. How much you want to bet this is a Reddit post? A man who admitted he was suspicious of his fiancée shared how he decided to hire a private investigator to follow her on a girl's holiday. As she goes away every year with her friends, he had a gut feeling she may have been up to no good. Stating he was deeply ashamed for resorting to the extreme measures, his suspicions were affirmed by the investigator, and now he's wondering how he should approach the subject, as he regrets snooping and not trusting her enough, but he doesn't know if it's best to confess or just leave her with no explanation. That was the Aussie rock. Sharing his ordeal on Reddit, there we go. He asked for advice of others as to how he should confront his fiancée as he no longer wants to be with her. Dude, sack up, have a cup of concrete, rip the band-aid off, and move on. My fiancée and I have been together for 5 years. Every year she goes on this girl trip with her close friends. Something in my gut have been worrying me about these trips. Maybe it was the slight changes in her behaviour afterwards or the cryptic conversations I'd overhear. Instead of directly confronting her, I did something I'm deeply ashamed of. I hired a private investigator to watch her during her recent trip. I got back the results a few days ago, and as much as I regret violating her privacy, my suspicions were not unfounded. The PI presented evidence of her being unfaithful. It shattered my heart. Now I'm caught in the storm of emotions. On one hand, I deeply regret snooping and not trusting her enough to talk about it. Fucking sack up, mate. She got caught cheating on you. Are you serious? On the other hand, the betrayal from her side feels even more significant. I love her, but I don't see a future together anymore. How do I approach this situation? Do I confess my snooping, or just end things without revealing the reason? Fuck no! You're married, you're going to court for a divorce. You throw those pictures down on the table and say, this is why I want a divorce. She is not getting shit out of me. Put down the soy, dude. Yep. His micro penis was tingling. He then later shared an update on the situation as numerous people told him to confess to her. He updated Redditors and said that he had tried to handle things maturely and gave her a chance to come clean, and asked if there was anything she wanted to share about her trip, she claimed he was gaslit, making him question his own perceptions and reality. Dude, you've got evidence from a fucking PI. How? How is she gaslighting you? Having the evidence I had, I confronted her about the affair. She was taken aback and immediately asked how I knew. I told her the truth, that I'd hired a PI. I didn't want to falsely accuse any of her friends, as some of you suggested, even though, honestly, part of me was tempted. She was furious. I've never seen her that angry in all our years. Additionally, feeling it was the right thing to do, I shared the evidence with one of her friend's boyfriends so he could be informed and consider getting tested if necessary. It was clear to both of us that our relationship had reached a breaking point. We broke up right then. Despite it being my house that I financially covered for us, I left and checked into a hotel, giving her space and asking her to pack her things and move out. Dude, what the fuck? Unless this is Who Framed Roger Rabbit and all she did was play patty cake. Please be an Am I the Arsehole. I don't think this is so much an Am I the Arsehole as it is a bitch was mad, fuck her about how about be faithful and don't worry about it. Audio's cutting out when I get loud. Oh, yeah, I've got like audio settings on to make sure that I don't blow people's ears out, so my sincere apologies for that. Whether married or not, just say we are done, get the fuck out, don't tiptoe. Most people were quick to praise the actions of the heartbroken man. As one user commented, well handled man, better than mine. I'd have strongly considered the mysterious not to tell her how I know. Just come on, I just know, lol, it's so juicy. But kudos to you for telling other spouses you're the real one. She revealed her character all around. Thankfully you didn't marry this trip. He just said that you... Oh, hang on, well, they're not married. Fiance. Right, they were getting married, so it's still de facto. I laugh at the way Hayden says asshole. What's wrong with asshole? Kick her ass out, it's your fucking house, never leave her in the house alone after that. Fuck no. Leaves her to destroy his stuff instead of kicking her out and then have a cop escort her out during time to reclaim her items. Why is this news? What's her number? Jesus Christ. This is one of the situations where you actually have evidence to make a claim against somebody and you make all the wrong choices, really, in my opinion. But anyway. Give back the ring. If it were me, I'd have to ask the guy if he knew she was taken, and if he did break his nose. Well, I would in no way promote violence or anything, but I would say you'd be entirely justified in that situation. All right. Oh, yeah. Here's the story that I thought may have been about Nick, or at least someone attending the Nashville situation. Group of friends take over a Nashville hotel for hours after no employees are found. 3 friends took it upon themselves to manage a Nashville hotel for a few hours. After a late night of partying, the trio was unable to check into their room at La Quinta Inn and Suites because there were no employees in sight. The saga was first documented on TikTok early Wednesday morning with a 40-second clip with a caption saying, "When you arrive at the hotel and there's no staff, so you have a new job. We've been working for 2 hours." After checking to make sure no one had fallen asleep behind the desk or in one of the back offices, the friends began to answer phones, greet customers, and even set up a breakfast buffet. They did manage to find one employee, a maid, who didn't know what was going on, but said she'd not seen anyone in a couple of hours. They also reached out to the general manager, who was on a business trip in California and wasn't aware that there were no employees on the floor. So instantly we were like, manager mode. We ran businesses back home. Manager mode kicks in. All right, let's see what we can do, Kenzie said to one of his friends shared. The friends fielded several complaints from customers about unauthorized payments, as well as a lack of hotel personnel available. Police later showed up to the hotel, but gave them permission to do whatever you have to do as he began to leave, the friends reported. The friends recounted the tale in a handful of TikTok videos. Here's what we know. One was taking calls, one was helping guests get checked in and checked out, and one was helping serve breakfast. They managed to hold down the fort until a La Quinta Inn employee showed up. By then, the trio had managed to get everyone settled. The friends then asked if they could check into their room, but the employee told them they'd be charged a $25 resort fee. A short time later, the general manager from another Wyndham Hotels Resorts made an appearance. They caught him up on the drama that ensued and were met with utter disbelief and gratitude for holding down the fort. We'll get them checked in. We're not charging you anything, the manager reportedly told them. The crew headed up to the 6th floor to decompress in one of the only rooms available, thinking everything was fine. But as soon as they entered the room, they spotted a naked woman inside. The lady proceeded to tell them she would be staying at the hotel for the next 2 weeks. The friends let her know they were not trying to steal her room, that they'd received keys from management. They went down to the lobby for the last time to let the manager know what had happened. So did they stay? No. After they reported what they saw to the Holiday Inn general manager, Kenzie asked if they could stay at his hotel. Can we just go stay at your hotel? Because it's just honestly been a shit show of a mess. The friends ended up with 3 suites and a free breakfast after the manager makes a call back to his hotel, gushing over how amazing they'd been. He took their contact information and said he'd be in touch. I don't know what that means, but maybe we're getting a Holiday Inn. If they do get a Holiday Inn, the friends have asked their viewers to come and stay with them. The La Quinta Inns and Suites, a Wyndham Hotel and Resorts property, has not publicly commented on the incident. Thank you for staying at our hotel. Please enjoy the complimentary naked woman. There's your tip. Well, is it wrong that for a split second there I thought that they'd done that deliberately?
Good morning.
Oh, God, not the phone again.
Oh, for God's sakes. So there, yeah, apparently you can just, take over a business when none of the other employees are there. I suppose it makes a certain amount of sense, but I'm sorry, only in Nash Vegas did you hear about the hotel manager who was sucking the toes of guests in a different hotel? Yeah, Cindy, we actually covered that a little while ago. He was copying people's cards and then sneaking in the middle of the night to suck on their toes. And it's not even as if he was sucking on, I don't remember if he was gay or not, but he was sucking on blokes' toes as well as women's toes, and it's just, yeah, no, okay. And there could be too drunk to function running a hotel. That's quite a point. I will give you that. Okay, got that. Okay, and today's lawsuit of the day. Let me just make sure I've actually opened the lawsuit. There it is. Okay, so we've got that. All right, so for today's lawsuit of the day, Yale University student Saifullah Khan, accused of rape, sues his accuser for defamation after Connecticut Supreme Court ruling clears the way. So yes, this is apparently becoming the new thing. Someone accuses you of rape or SA, it's proven wrong, so you then sue them for defamation. Or in the case of that law professor who just turns around and sues them for defamation while the sexual assault claims are still on foot. A former Yale student who was expelled by the university after being accused of sexual assault is suing one of his accusers for defamation and is demanding $100 million in damages from the school after not being able to get his degree. Expelled in 2019, the 30-year-old filed suit more than 4 years ago, 20 months after he was acquitted of raping a female student on a Halloween night in 2015, but deemed responsible for the act by the school months later. The case has since slowly grinded through the Connecticut courts, culminating in a recent ruling this past June, where jurors said the then 21-year-old woman is not immune from a defamation lawsuit, while not commenting on the merits of such a case. Khan, a member of the class of 2016 who had his undergraduate studies upended over the claims, was found not guilty of the alleged rape in a court of law. Following his exoneration, which came at the height of America's Me Too movement, Khan was readmitted as a full-time student in 2018, but was subject to protests from the student body along the way. Last thing Nick said to me was, "I can't believe they're still serving us alcohol." Barely a month later, another student, one of Khan's chief supporters during the trial and former romantic partner, came forward to claim Khan slapped him during a consensual threesome in DC in June of 2018. Aired in an interview with the school newspaper, those claims led to Khan again being suspended and eventually expelled in January 2019 after the school ruled that he was responsible for the other unproven act, even without a conviction. The ruling came more than 3 years after the alleged assault was first reported and made way for Khan's new suit, now given the green light. It demands $110 million in damages on the basis that the school violated his rights throughout the investigative process, particularly a federal law that governs how universities should handle sexual assault hearings called Title IX. The aforementioned damages attributed to the obstruction of his degree completion, reputational harm, and breach for his right of privacy, the suit states, along with alleged instances of emotional distress. The filing described in depth how he was arrested in November 2015 for the alleged rape ahead of his trial, which it was initially slated for 2017 and was postponed after Yale police failed to provide the defense with interviews from prospective witnesses. Before providing Khan's version of what happened, lawyers wrote how the Afghani neuroscience student who began attending Yale in 2012 was expected to graduate with a Yale baccalaureate and was on the cusp of a world filled with promise. On the night of Halloween 2015, Khan met with a female student, Jane Doe, whose name is kept confidential out of respect for the university's confidentiality requirement in Title IX proceedings. The pair, described by both the prosecution and defense as acquaintances, met at a party sponsored by an off-campus secret society, and afterwards attended a performance of the Yale Student Orchestra at Woolsey Hall, a campus auditorium. Mr. Khan and Jane Doe were familiar with one another from several on-campus encounters, the lawsuit further notes, before describing how the pair left the performance prematurely after the unnamed victim suddenly took ill. Doe, meanwhile, claimed in interviews eventually administered by police that she was so intoxicated she had trouble producing her ticket, vomited, and ended up sitting with Khan, whom she considered an acquaintance. The alleged victim at the time said she had never been inebriated prior to the night in question when she consumed multiple alcoholic beverages at a Jewish Society Shabtai off-campus party. The two proceeded to walk together on campus for a period before returning to their co-educational dormitory, the suit states, and eventually the girls' dorm. This is where she said Khan forced himself onto her despite her intoxicated state, an account Khan and his team have continued to dispute after successfully battling them in court with an in-depth cross-examination. "I was crying, I tried to say stop, but I'm not sure if anything came out," Doe testified to a 12-person jury that would eventually find Khan not guilty, emotionally stating at that point, "I remember feeling him inside of me." However, with a line of questioning that saw attorneys point to a description Jane Doe provided to police of her Halloween costume that attempted to avoid the fact that she was dressed in a provocative manner, and a grainy account of how the two had ended up in a room in the first instance, lawyers poked enough holes in her defense that jurors were unable to find Khan guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. After barely 3 hours of deliberation, he was acquitted, though his fight against the now unproven allegations still had to be settled on the school front. As the suit notes, much of the Connecticut campus at this point was aware of Khan at this point, with the Yale Daily News and other news outlets covering the trial closely, portraying Mr. Khan as an extremely unfavorable light. Upon his return to school the next year, after months of having his request to be reinstated during the preceding school year ignored, Khan was confronted with this climate, which included a student petition circulated online calling on Yale not to readmit him. Within weeks, it garnered nearly 78,000 signatures, lawyers for Khan pointed out, painting a picture of the pronounced chorus of opinion seen at the school at the time. Protests at the Connecticut campus were also rife, and Khan, his attorney wrote, was relegated to living off campus while still taking a full course of 5 classes. This sounds vaguely familiar, doesn't it? Like the individual who said he was going to attend university and take his gun with him. And, that Snapchat or whatever that got shared around. This is sounding awfully familiar. Topper, she claimed to be a virgin too. Wait, Yale is a reputable school. There wouldn't be anything bad about that would happen there, right? Well, apparently. Amid the social climate, new accusations of SA soon surfaced in October in the form of an interview given to the Yale Daily News from John Andrews, who at one point was one of Khan's fiercest supporters and a board member of the Families Advocating for Campus Equality, an advocacy group that works to defend college students accused of SA. He alleged to the paper that Khan, who is bisexual, had assaulted him during a consensual threesome in Washington, D.C., 2 months after the trial concluded, and physically attacked him on several occasions. Andrews, who became involved in the group after being expelled from Indiana's Hanover College over accusations of sexual assault himself, also claimed Khan regularly spoke about women with sexually explicit and disturbing language over the course of their romantic relationship. Being with Safe for 9 months, we were together was like slowly being smothered, Andrews told the news. Oh, so they were in a relationship that ended. No axe to grind there, is there? And see, the trouble is, look, it may well have happened, but the trouble is, mate, you have taken this and you've made it into a massive shit show. So what you have to say now that I know that you were in a relationship with the guy, you're in a unique position here to completely obliterate the poor bastard. So I'm sorry, I'm going to be scrutinizing everything you have to say with a fine-tooth comb. Someone in a romantic relationship would talk about it in a graphic and disturbing way. Who hasn't? Says Abomination over on Rumble. Point. Gross. Every day he tangled me up more and more in his twisted world. Within 3 months, Khan found himself formally expelled from the school based on a ruling arrived at by the school's university-wide Committee on Sexual Misconduct, which was founded in 2011 and includes roughly 40 members selected from across the school. They found Khan, who was forced to wait in a room during the proceedings, responsible for sexually assaulting Jane Doe in 2015, but made no mention of the other allegations made by Andrews. Aside from not being allowed in the room with the panel, neither Khan nor his lawyer could, under the rules of the hearing, cross-examine the accuser, who also alleged that Khan, who was sleeping on her couch, insisted that they not tell anyone about the sexual encounter and establish a timeline of the previous night over breakfast. It was this, along with other instances deemed to have not provided Khan with a proper chance to defend himself, that jurists in Connecticut's state Supreme Court cited in June when ruling to allow Khan to move forward with his suit against the school and Doe, as well they fucking should. There's something about this that has me so fucking riled. It was proven beyond a reasonable... Sorry, it wasn't proven. It was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he had engaged in this. There's such a thing as double jeopardy in the courts. I don't see why Yale should be allowed to even remotely do this in this circumstance. It was held due to the fact that Connecticut and several other state witnesses in such quasi-judicial hearings are promised absolute immunity against defamation lawsuits after providing testimony. Yeah, fuck that. Deciding that the Yale hearing was not quasi-judicial because it lacked due process, the court said of its decision, administered over a unanimous 7-0 vote. For absolute immunity to apply under Connecticut law, fundamental fairness requires meaningful cross-examination in proceedings like the one at issue. The recent ruling is significant because the federal government is slated in October to change regulations covering how colleges must handle sexual misconduct cases, including Title IX. The Khan hearing was governed by Obama-era guidance, which at the time discouraged cross-examination. Come on, get your shit together. However, in 2020, the Trump administration reversed those guidelines, mandating the practice. What? Why is it that individuals on the left would not want accusers to be cross-examined? Can someone maybe explain that one to me? because they don't want certain things looked at too closely for a whatever. It's just okay. The Biden administration now set to undo those changes with a review on relatively new guidance said to be underway. The new law is expected to hew closer to the Obama-era version and would likely again make hearings and therefore direct cross-examination optional. Norm Pattis, a lawyer for Khan, claimed that the Supreme Court decision called the Supreme Court decision fantastic news for Khan and bad news for Yale. It sheds a much-needed light on the hothouse environment at Yale and its infirm handling of sexual misconduct complaints. He wrote in a text to the Associated Press. Joseph Vincent, an advisory board member of the Association of the Title IX Administrators, added that the suit, while far from a slam dunk, will put pressure on schools and the federal government to reassess the somewhat murky precedent. It's not that Khan will win, Vincent told the New York Times this week, with the suit now underway. It's that Khan can run up the bills and run out the clock so that it's no longer feasible to defend oneself. He added that those filing complaints may have to make a cost-benefit decision cost-benefit decision way at the beginning about whether or not they are prepared and able to endure prospective legal costs. No, AP. The allegations were about the same woman. The allegations that he hit somebody were against a bloke. So there you go. Now, the actual claim itself is like 28 pages. So I'm not sure if I actually want to go through that or not. How long is this? The university chants "Me Too." He's actually used that as a title in part of the claim. Oh, that's funny. How many pages is it? Okay, so we have... Shit, how many pages was that? Welcome to the hothouse. Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to go through the entire one for that. So... Alright, moving on. What the hell is that? Big tech on trial. No thanks. Oh, we do have an update. Wait, no we don't, because that is not going to allow me to read. Moving on. A woman is accused of hiding in her ex's backseat before attempting to kill him in Jefferson County. A Brookville woman has been accused of hiding in her ex-boyfriend's backseat before attacking him with a knife while he was leaving for work in the Pennsylvania State Police report. According to court documents, Paige Nicole Lander, 23, was arrested on Thursday morning and charged with attempted murder of her ex-boyfriend. The criminal complaint notes the investigation is ongoing and only outlines sufficient probable cause to take her into custody. According to the complaint, police were alerted that Lander was unreachable and may be suicidal. At roughly 6 a.m., while searching for Landers, troopers were called to a home where they found a man who was stabbed multiple times. He was taken to Dubois Regional Medical Center. The victim later told police that he and Lander had dated for a few months and then broke up. He alleged that she would message him to the point where he started blocking her. According to his account, he was leaving for work and backed out of the driveway when he noticed her vehicle blocking the way. She then popped up from the back seat and attacked him with a knife while trying to bargain with her. He told police that she said she wanted him dead. The complaint shows that he was able to get out of the car and was worried that she would finish the job, but she ran to her vehicle and drove away. Troopers noted the man had cuts to his face, neck, and hand. Troopers said that they found a black-handled folding knife in the man's car along with blood and glass cleaning wipes that were covered in blood. According to the affidavit of probable cause, state police found Landers at her home and she was taken into custody. Suspected blood was also said to be found on the pants that she was wearing. Landers is now facing charges of attempted murder in the first degree, attempted aggravated assault causing bodily harm, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, terroristic threats, recklessly endangering another person, and simple assault. Landers was placed in Jefferson County Prison with bail set at 10% of $400,000. Or, just put simply, $40,000 bail. We're disappointed to say the least. That's funny. Oh, that was a different video. Never mind. Heading back to New York, a Bronx daycare suspect hauled off on to face charges after apparent fentanyl exposure killed a toddler and hospitalized 3 others. Fuck you. Fuck your brother. Just... Yeah, nope. Oh, come on. Seriously? The Bronx Daycare Center, where one tot died and 3 others were hospitalized from suspected fentanyl exposure, was being used as a drug front, police sources said Sunday, and its owner was hauled to court. Gray Mendez de Ventura, 36, the proprietor of Divino Nino Daycare, was stoic as she was led out of the 52nd precinct, followed by an alleged cohort, Caristo Acevendo Burrito. Burrito? Burrito. It doesn't matter how I say it, it still sounds like burrito. Who lived in the basement along with the drugged-up daycare business. Brito hid his face from reporters as he walked from the precinct wearing a white baseball cap and putting his head down. He was put in a separate NYPD car for the trip to the Bronx Criminal Court. Police said Mendez was later taken to Lincoln Hospital for medical evaluation and is listed in a stable condition. The suspects, who face raps including murder, did not respond to questions from reporters outside the precinct. Both suspects are awaiting arraignment. The pair was charged on Saturday with murder, assault, and child endangerment in the suspected fentanyl exposure death of Nicholas Feliz Dominici? Poor kid. 3 children, 2 2-year-olds and an 8-month-old sister of one of them, remain hospitalized after being exposed to the deadly drug. The kiddies were apparently exposed when the drug was cut in the daycare center, and some of it floated into the air, allowing them to inhale it. Police have launched a manhunt for Ventura's husband, who lived with her next door and is also sought in the boy's death. That's messed up. Cops responded to a 911 call from the Kingsbridge Childcare Centre shortly after 3:30 p.m. on Friday and found 3 children unresponsive, allegedly after being exposed to fentanyl. At least some of the children were administered Narcan to try and save them. Dominici was rushed to a medical centre where he was pronounced dead. One of the 2-year-olds is in critical condition with the 8-month-old in a stable condition. The other toddler was taken to Bronx Care Health Systems by an acquaintance and is in a stable condition. In addition to the depraved indifference murder charge, the pair is facing a slew of charges including manslaughter, reckless endangerment of a child, assault, and criminal possession of a controlled substance. Burn in hell. All I've got to say.
I haven't had anything. I've got anything with this week.
Nope. Don't really care about whatever joyful scenes that is. Oh, and a story just for me. LEGO's next Star Wars set is a 5,300-piece tribute to the Clone Wars. I may or may not have put this on my Christmas list and sent it to my wife. LEGO's Star Wars Ultimate Collection series has played a host to massive recreations from the galaxy far, far away's vehicles and ships. See, the annoying thing is, I can't stand modern Star Wars, and I feel like every criticism that they're having about Ahsoka and what's happened with the later seasons of The Mandalorian, all that sort of shit. The trouble is, look at this fucking ship. I just want to build it. Dare you to try and put that together without instructions? Fuck no! Today, LEGO officially confirmed that the next Ultimate Collection model will drop next month and takes us back to the prequel trilogy in the form of the Replicator Venator-class attack cruiser, the predecessor to the Imperial Star Destroyer. Look at that thing. Like, set aside the fact that it's from, like, Star Wars, just that as a model is gorgeous. Measuring just over 43 inches and made of a whopping 5,374 pieces, the Venator comes with a display stand and the USC Stalwart placard giving a technical breakdown of the Grand Army of the Republic's flagship cruiser line, as well as a place to hold the included Clone Wars 20th anniversary emblem, as well as 2 minifigures that come with a set representing the more recent 3D CG animated series, The Clone Wars, rather than its 2-day predecessor, Clone Captain Rex and Admiral Yularen. Meh. I want. Do you want to stick your ding dong in it? No. I just want to build it. Like, it's gorgeous. Oh, stash! Look how fucking. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. Okay. A man tried to sue a hospital for $643 million American after he was encouraged to watch his wife's C-section. A man in Australia has accused a hospital in Melbourne of causing him to develop a psychiatric illness after he watched his wife undergo a caesarean section, according to 7 News. Anil Kapula tried to sue the Royal Women's Hospital for letting him watch his wife give birth via C-section in 2018. He sued for $1 billion Australian, which is about 643 million US. The caesarean was a success, but the man claims the hospital failed in its duty of care by letting him watch the procedure. Fuck right off. Just because you're encouraged to do something does not mean that you are legally required to be there. He said the hospital encouraged or permitted him to watch the operation, and that seeing his wife's organs and blood caused the mental illness that... Trying to sue them for letting him watch. Yep. Caused the mental illness he claimed to have. It adds. A caesarean section is a common operation in which a surgeon delivers a baby through a cut made in your tummy and womb, according to the National Health Service. The surgical procedure is often performed when another course is dangerous or difficult and poses a risk to the mother and baby. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 32.1% of all babies delivered in the US in 2021 were born by caesarean section. Coppola filed a lawsuit several years after the operation, claiming he is owed damages because of the life-changing psychological injury that he obtained that day. In his legal claim, he has said psychotic illness led to the breakdown of his marriage. Jesus, he's blaming watching her give birth for the reason that his marriage is broken down. Like, what the hell? My husband kept looking at my face and saying, "Holy crap, you don't feel that," and had to sit down. He chose to represent himself in court because why else wouldn't you? Where Justice James Gorton dismissed the suit and deemed the claim an abusive process. Attaboy, Justice James Gorton. The trial proceedings included a medical examination of him. The panel concluded that the alleged psychological effect on him was insufficient. It found the degree of psychiatric... Why would you... Wait, what? You had a medical panel report that said that your psychological impairment was insufficient, and you still proceeded to court? You moron. It found the degree of psychiatric impairment resulting from the injury that the claimant alleged to the claim does not satisfy the threshold, which is like 30%. You have to reach a level of 30% impairment, which means this guy's... Like, you'd literally need to be sitting on the couch going, "I saw my wife cut open and my baby come out. I saw my wife cut open and my baby come out. I can't move." Like, what the... It's just, yeah. I have no idea what that means, Still Life, but if you don't like the content, no one's requiring you to watch. He could have stopped watching at some point. Yeah, pretty much. So, alright, where are we? Got that. Cars trapped. Oh, and of course, we're heading back to California. Automated speeding tickets close to reality in Bay Area after bill passes California legislature. In the near future, you might automatically get ticketed in California without ever talking to a police officer if you exceed the speed limit by more than 11 miles per hour. Assembly Bill 645, which authorizes the use of speed cameras capable of ticketing drivers, is now waiting for Governor Gavin Newsom's signature after its passage of the California legislature this week. I'm a little confused. Do you guys not have automatic speed cameras in America ever? Like, it's a... I passed 4 of them on my way to work. Like... But anyway. If approved by Newsom, the speed cameras could be put into use as soon as January 2024, according to Kerry West, Communications Director for the Assemblyman Laura Friedman D. Glendale. AB 645 calls for a pilot program in some of California's largest cities: San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, Glendale, Los Angeles, and Long Beach, which would last until January 2032, when it could potentially be expanded to the rest of the state. For the first 60 days of the program, city officials will issue warnings to drivers rather than tickets, the bill states. After that, drivers will be ticketed a minimum of $50 if the speed camera is able to capture the license plate of the vehicle going more than 11 miles per hour over the limit. Ticket penalties increase to $100 for going 16 to 25 miles over the limit. Are you serious? $100? $100 for doing 25 miles over the limit? Fuck. Okay. It's essentially on constitution that the constitutional fact that you cannot confront your accuser. Yeah, look, that actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. And one of the things that I really wish we had here was the right to confront the accuser. We have them, but they're fake. They flash to mess with ignorant folk, but they're unconstitutional here, at least in my state. Okay. $200 for going 26 to 99 miles over the speed limit. $500 if you're doing more than 100 miles over the speed limit. You could do... Wait, what? How does that work? The penalties in AB 645 are only financial. The automated tickets do not include revoking or suspending driver's licenses. Friedman, who co-introduced the bill, is currently running for the House of Representatives. She is hoping to fill the seat of Representative Adam Schiff, who's in the race for Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. Speeding was identified as one of the main factors in fatal crashes in recent years, Friedman said in a news release. What? What is even the fucking point of this, then? Like, it's literally revenue raising, but at small amounts at a time. Like, the fuck? Last speeding ticket was $275 for going 5 miles over. I was pissed. I don't doubt it. Okay. Tesla has blocked a Scottsdale woman from charging her car. A Scottsdale woman brought her car in for repairs. When she got the car back, a key system no longer worked and she couldn't get Tesla to fix the problem. That's when she called On Your Side. Irene Erickson loves her Tesla Model 3, but these days the EV stays parked in her garage. It's, 3,000 pounds of metal in a parking spot downstairs. Erickson's problem started last month when the battery of her Tesla died. She took it to Tesla and they replaced the battery for free under their warranty. However, during the process, Tesla technicians turned off a key feature that allows Tesla drivers to supercharge their vehicles in 15 minutes. She said she didn't find out until after she stopped at a supercharger station and could not charge her Tesla. That's when people saw me and came up and they were trying to troubleshoot it, but no one had ever seen anything like it. Turns out Tesla had intentionally deactivated her supercharging feature for safety reasons. When replacing the battery, they discovered that Carfax listed her car as having a salvage title due to being totaled in a collision. As a result, Tesla removed the supercharge feature as a safety precaution. But Carfax's information was wrong because an insurance company provided incorrect information. Her car was never totaled. In fact, it was just minor damage from a fender bender. I was just hoping for some attention at Tesla from someone to look at all the proof that I provided from the insurance company, from the collision center, and from the DMV that my car is absolutely not totaled. But even with that proof, along with Carfax correcting Erickson's car from a salvage title to a clean title, Tesla hasn't restored the supercharging feature, and they haven't helped her at all. I wouldn't characterize it as customer service. I mean, there's not a way to email them. There's a way to communicate on the app, but they don't respond. On Your Side reached out to Tesla and explained the issue. The great news is they realized that her car was never totaled and reactivated the feature that allowed her to supercharge her car. Erickson says it only happened with help from On Your Side. I've looked back at and I've sent over 30 emails every single day that I've been dealing with this and rarely getting a response. It was when you all got involved that something finally happened. That's bullshit. This sort of shit should not be happening. I get that Tesla's a proprietary, but they should... And it's the same thing with being able to disable the car from, remotely. That's what I also don't like OnStar being able to do that. And this is why I prefer gas guzzlers instead of an electric car. There is that. Lithium-ion batteries have a lot of fun when they ignite. That's fine, AP. I get that. I get that it's a safety feature. But if she's literally providing them with information to say, no, this is not accurate, then they should have fixed it immediately. This is literally something where she has bought a product. They have turned it into a faulty product in breach of their contract. No, they should have fixed this immediately. Disable her penis remotely. Alright. So remember when the Chinese spy balloons were a big thing? China halted spy balloon programs sometime after the US downed its device, according to a report. China has reportedly stopped spy balloon operations several months after one of its balloons was spotted in the skies above the US. Sources familiar with China's spy balloons told CNN that Chinese leaders have made the decision to not launch additional balloons after one was shot down by the US in February. Since then, US officials have not seen any new launches. Chinese embassy spokesperson Li Pengyu told CNN that the incident in February was unexpected and isolated. What? I'm sorry, it was unexpected that your spy balloon floating over a Western country got shot down? Since the incident happened, China has stated repeatedly that the balloon is found to be an unmanned civilian aircraft used for meteorological and other research purposes, and that its accidental entry into US airspace is entirely unexpected and an isolated incident caused by force majeure. Bullshit. US intelligence officials say that they think the CCP didn't intend for the balloon to cross the skies of the US. The balloon took off from a small Chinese province in Hainan and crossed into Alaska, Canada, and downward toward Idaho and Montana. American fighter jets shot down the balloon off the coast of South Carolina on February 4. The FBI conducted an analysis of the balloon remnants, and the Pentagon announced that no intelligence was gathered. A leaked report from the government assures national security has not been compromised further. I don't think they could use it to deliver my General Tso's chicken. CNN reported that it is not known how long China will suspend its spy balloon operations. Christopher Johnson, a former senior China analyst at the CIA and current senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, said it might be dependent on how a potential meeting between President Biden and Xi Jinping goes. They are each expected at the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco in November. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Speaking of China, TikTok is hit with a $368 million fine under Europe's strict privacy rules. European regulators slapped TikTok, why do I keep saying Twitter, with a $368 million fine on Friday for failing to protect children's privacy, the first time the popular short-form video sharing app has been punished for breaching Europe's strict data privacy rules. Ireland's Data Protection Commission, the lead policy regulator for big tech companies whose European headquarters are largely in Dublin, said it was fining TikTok €345 million and reprimanding the platform for its violations dating to the second half of 2020. The investigation found that the sign-up process for teen users resulted in settings that made their accounts public by default, allowing anyone to view and comment on their videos. Those default settings also posed a risk to children under 13 who gained access to the program, even though they're not allowed. After a family pairing feature designed for parents to manage settings wasn't strict enough, allowing adults to turn on direct messaging for users aged 16 and 17 without their consent. It nudged teen users into more privacy-intrusive options when signing up and posting videos, the watchdog said. TikTok said in a statement that it disagreed with the decision, particularly with the level of the fine imposed. I'm shocked that they're disagreeing with the amount of the fine. The company pointed out the regulator's criticisms focused on features and settings dating back 3 years ago. TikTok said that it had made changes well before the investigation began in September 21, including making all accounts for teens under 16 private by default and disabling direct messaging for 13 to 15-year-olds. Most of the decision's criticisms are no longer relevant. It doesn't matter if they're no longer relevant, you still committed the crime in the past. I don't care if you fix things now. Oh, hang on. I committed a murder 3 years ago. I've made changes so that I don't do that again. So the fine and the punishment for committing the murder back then is just, it's not appropriate. Like, what the hell? Most of the decision's criticisms are no longer relevant. The Irish regulator has been criticised for not moving fast enough in its investigations into big tech companies since EU privacy laws took effect in 2018. For TikTok, German and Italian regulators disagreed with parts of the draft decision issued a year ago, delaying it further. To avoid new bottlenecks, the Brussels headquarters of the 27-nation bloc has been given the job of enforcing new regulations to foster digital competition and clean up social media content, rules aimed at maintaining its position as a global leader in tech regulation. In response to initial German objections, the Germans were objecting. Europe's top panel of data regulators said TikTok nudged teen users with pop-up notices that failed to lay out their choice in a neutral and objective way. Social media companies have a responsibility to avoid presenting choices to users, especially children, in an unfair manner, particularly if that presentation can nudge people into making decisions to violate their privacy interests, said Anu Telus. Anu, tell us. The Irish watchdog, meanwhile, also had examined TikTok's measures to verify whether users are at least 13 years of age, but found that they didn't break any rules. It's called X Hayden. God damn it, get with it. Wow, Mandy, you're really gonna hate some other things that I've got coming up. Then, where are we? Hang on. What do I need? I need Canva. That's what I need. Because I've not downloaded any of the things that I'm supposed to be doing. Download that. Move that across. Oh, shit, I can't remember if I'm supposed to download all 3 pages or just the 1 page on that. No, just the 1 page. Download MP3 video. No, I want it streaming quality. Okay, now is that actually downloading or not? Okay, alright, that's fine. We'll move on. Where are we? And finally, Python surprise, exotic snake found hiding in a car engine in the Bay Area. Green Bay area, I should say. Green Bay. Imagine checking under your hood of your car and finding a python slithering in your engine. That recently happened to someone in Green Bay. It's kind of scary. You know what? They're probably just going to talk about it. Let me just watch the video.
I'm Tyler Jobe, your Green Bay neighborhood reporter. Imagine checking under the hood of your car and finding a python slithering in your engine. That recently happened to someone in Green Bay.
It's kind of scary. I never thought anybody would be able to find a python underneath their hood of their car.
Ellen
Why would you
Shador
think
didn't
that would
find
happen?
the exotic animal, but lives near the 2300 block of Pecan Street where the snake was found.
For one thing, I don't like snakes. Another thing, it just seems so unreal.
It's not a common thing that we see.
As someone who's worked at the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary for 25 years, curator Lori Bankson says this rescue was a rarity.
The owner of the vehicle was not the owner of the snake.
Bankson says the python somehow got loose. She says the snake was first seen in the garage before eventually being found under the hood of a car.
Most likely the snake crawled up into this person's engine of the car to stay warm and found a good place to hang out for a little while.
Bankson says the car owner safely drove over to the wildlife sanctuary with the reptile. Pecan Street is more than 4 miles away from the sanctuary.
They gave the okay that, yeah, the snake should be fine if you drive the car over.
Bankson, along with a colleague and animal control, safely removed the python. She says the snake is now being cared for at a rescue.
Eventually, then we'll be given a good home. They'll find a home for it.
Police say the reptile was a 7-foot-long jungle carpet python. Bankson says the snake is from Australia. So how did the python make it all the way over here?
From what I understand, this is a very popular animal in the exotic pet field and exotic pet trade.
Green Bay City Code explains that a permit is required for people to keep exotic animals. Police say there is not a known permit for this kind of snake, but despite some legal questions surrounding this rescue, Bankson says nobody was injured.
It was an exciting afternoon, but we're glad it went well.
Bankson says if you ever encounter a snake slithering around in your engine, call animal control and do not start your...
I can't do snakes. I cannot do snakes. So in our household, we know that if there's a snake, the wife deals with it. If there's a spider, I deal with it.
Car right away. Tyler Jobe, NBC 26 News.
So there you go. All right. Don't move to Queensland. Hell no. That's the one reason that I don't go up to the Daintree and walk around. I can't deal with the snakes. All right, guys. I am going to finish off with a sneak preview of something that's coming up, and just to piss Mandy off. So there you go. What's that? Had a 7-foot diamond python for years. Ooh. Anyway. Alright, guys, I'm going to finish it up there. Also, can you guys just maybe leave something in the comments? Let me know whether or not you think that the 2 hours is too long. Maybe I should cut it down because things get a little bit dry or boring or whatever else. I don't know. I'm still trying to play with things. But please, as always, remember that you are not a piece of shit. You do have value and you do contribute to society, especially if you hit that like button for me. Double check whether or not you're still subscribed. Double check the notifications as well, just because, you know, be nice if people were actually here. Because, anyway, as always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you on the flip side. Where's it gone? Shit. See you, peeps.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.